Hi, this is Bill Hitchcock, and we're just going to go into Google Forms and try to download some data, pull that up into Excel, and see if we can start some analysis. So first all I did is I've pulled up my browser, went to google.com, searched for Google Forms, and once I found that, I'm coming down here where I can sign in. I'm already signed in, so you'll have to do the same thing. Make sure that you're signed in to Google and you can access any forms that you have. So I've got a form that I created back, actually a few years ago and have updated since. It's just a quiz getting some information from students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that quiz, and here you can see the questions that we asked in it, what year you're taking this, what semester, and so on and so forth. And to the side of it, you can see where it's got the responses. And so far, I've got 206 different responses. So I'll click on that, and it shows me some quick graphs. So here's out of out of the 206, 90 responded when they were taking this. That's because it was a new question. So I've got 90 from 2020. You can see what semester people are taking things on, what course they're taking it on, and so on. So it's got a little bit of analysis there that actually is not too bad. Take a look at it. Um, use this as maybe a starting point for your own analysis. All right, second thing I want to do is click on these three dots here, and I want to download the data from my survey. It's going to create what's called a CSV file, and CSV just means a comma separated values file. I'll open up the zip folder that it created, and you can see it says Microsoft Excel comma separated values quiz 1 about you. We'll open that up by double clicking. It knows to start up Excel, and really it works fairly easily. We pull up all this information, it's right into an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can file, save as, decide where it is that you want to save this data. I'm just going to save it on my C drive. I'll save it on my temp folder, but you could save this virtually anywhere that you want, and then make sure that you change CSV to an Excel workbook, because that way anything that you do with this file, any formatting changes and so on, you'll want to make sure that it is saved, and CSV won't save any of the formatting or do any of the other work that you have. So I'm just going to call this my sample quiz 1 data. Depending on what sort of data you're saving, give it an appropriate name. I hit save, and there we go. So I realize that this isn't going to be the same kind of information that you have, but what we want to do is the same kind of steps. So we're going to start cleaning up some of this data. I've got it saved. First thing I always recommend is to right click on your leftmost column, insert a new one, type in OBS for observation, recnum, seek, something, and we're going to keep track of the original order that we have these records. So I'll type in 1, 2, 3. I'll go to my Home tab, use a comma format, decrease the decimals, and then mouse over the fill handle, that little black box, double click, and extend that series of records all the way to the bottom. And there's my 206 observations that I happen to have. Right, I'm going to hit Control Home, get up to the top. Next, what I want to do is I want to take my field names and I'm going to adjust those. So I'm going to hold my Shift key, hit the End key and right arrow, and I'm going to keep going over a little bit farther to the right in case I want to add some additional columns. I'll choose Boldface, Center, and Wrap Text. And you can see I've got some fairly big field names there. We're going to want to clean that up as well. Now that I've got that all highlighted, the second thing I want to do is I want to format all the font size, shrink this down so it doesn't take up quite as much real estate on my spreadsheet. So since I've got all the columns highlighted, I can hold my Shift key, hit the End key once, down arrow, And that way I get all the way down to the bottom of these records. I'll cursor down a little bit farther, let go of my shift key, change the font size to 8, and that's shrunk down a bit. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit on the spreadsheet to make this a little bit easier for you to read. But keep in mind, I'm just using a 8 font. I think that that's plenty big. And we'll clean up a couple of these columns. So for the observation one, double click on the between A and B, narrow that up. For the timestamp, that one we're actually going to want to try to break that apart. So I wouldn't change the font size or the width of that one so much. For this one, what year are you taking? Let's just call it year. And you can decide if you want to use all uppercase, lowercase, mixed case for these. For this one, what semester are you taking the course? I'm just going to call it SEM for semester, and let's double click there. Notice I can narrow that one up. For the year, we'll try the same thing. We'll double click on the year, see if we can narrow that up. And let's take a quick look and see if we can find some of those years. There we go. There's 2020 and that. Now notice for these, it's just bleeding over from the timestamp. So don't worry about that. Course will be fine. First name, last name, country, state, province, etc. This we might want to call state PR for state province. Here we can maybe just cut this back to hometown, home zip, mascot. Oh, hang on. This is the name of the high school, isn't it? So let's just call it HS for high school name, HS mascot, high school mascot, class or CLS would be all right. This one's going to be ice cream. Sport. Activity. Music. Book. Movie. And what you might consider doing is you could have taken all those names and added those in as a comment on each of these cells so you kind of remember what it was. This is the grade. This is something cool. Pet. Where we want to live. And hours that we plan to, well, actually, why don't we call it study? So we can see how much we're going to be studying. Then I'm finally out to column Z. I'm going to hit end and down arrow just to check and see if I have anything else. I'm already down in row 1,048,576. So I can hit end and up. I'm back up here. So now that I've got all my field names adjusted, we might highlight some of these columns. Let's try double clicking and see what happens. And some of them get kind of wide. Even if I do the timestamp, you can see that that's kind of wide a little bit. So perhaps what we do is we just cut this back. The course, again, same thing. We could probably cut this back a little bit. The country, we can cut that back. State, province, for some reason that's fairly wide. So we can take a look at some of these things and use that to start cleaning up the data. All right, I'm going to go to cell A2, choose View Freeze Panes, and save what we have. All right, next what you'd have to do is start going through all of your data. Take something like first name, for example, and let's just try sorting by these fields and just kind of glance through them. See if you have anything that seems out of the norm, I guess. Or if they've got something a little bit different. Here, let's try country, for example, and let's sort by country. So here we've got one, we've got KSA, and then here we've got Saudi Arabia. Notice that it's spelled different ways. So KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we could decide, do we want to use that, or would, it be easier to use just Saudi Arabia? Um, I'm guessing most people probably would be all right with just doing Saudi Arabia, and then we highlight those cells to do that. Here you can see we've got a whole bunch of United States. So, we've got United States, somebody else might have done US, and so on. So what we might want to do is just, let's abbreviate all of this, just make it US or USA, and then we can copy that down for all those that appear to be US. And there's a bunch of USAs. Some of them were uppercase, lowercase, so we want to be consistent there. That way they're all consistent and that looks better. I'll come to the state province, sort that. I'm going to start up at the top. Here we've got Arizona, then we've got Arizona, Phoenix, United States. Um, let's just make this AZ for the state. California, Colorado, here's Iowa. Let's copy that down. Oh, that's as far as we have for Iowa. Here it looks like we've got Illinois, so let's copy that to make sure that we're consistent there. Here's some that are listed as Illinois. Here we've got IO. I'm assuming we do IA. Let's copy this down for all the Iowa ones. Kansas, we'll do KS. Louisiana, we'll do that. MN for here we've got some other provinces, one in Saudi Arabia. Here, let's make Riyadh with a capital R. Texas, that would be all right. We can go with WA. Choose Wisconsin. And we'll fill that in. Right, and then finally we've got a few that we don't have a state province listed. Right, but all of that can help just in terms of processing some of this data. We can try to narrow that column up a little bit, see if that makes life a little bit easier. Do the same thing for each one of these fields, and that's the first process that we want to go through for trying to cleanse our data and do some better analysis with it. So, hope that helps. We'll save this. Remember, this particular data set might not look like what you're working with, but that's all right. We'll do what we can with some of the other data sets.